Yeah. Okay, good afternoon, and welcome to the August 22nd, 2013 Longview City Council meeting. We're going to start tonight with our prayer and our pledge, and that's going to be led by the Associate Minister Gary Floyd of the Galilee Baptist Church. Would you please stand?
As we pray, eternal merciful God, Father which art in heaven, we come, God, praising and thanking you for your many blessings. Thank you, God, for your loving kindness and your mercy towards each one of us. God, as we gather together here for this meeting, we pray that you would give special insight and wisdom to the mayor and the council, that they might be able to make good decisions, Lord, for the benefit of all of the citizens of Longview. God, we pray right now that you would bless all of those workers, that you would give them special discernment and insight, that they might be able to give us service for the benefit of the citizens of Longview. And as we pray, God, we think of our children, and we pray that you help us to be good examples before them, that we may lead them in the paths of righteousness for thy name's sake. Continue to bless the entire nation, God. And we ask that you bless us at the county and the state and all levels of government, God, to help us to be a nation that you are proud of and pleased with. And we ask you always to help us to do those things that are good and pleasing in your sight. And thank God. Amen.
Amen.
If you would, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Pastor. Citizen comment tonight, we have Vic Verma.
Thank you, Mayor Dean, members of council. I won't take too much of your time, but we, in keeping with the community spirit, Organizing for Action, which I'm involved in, we are having an event on August 31st. We will be screening the film The Dream Is Now. For those of you who know, the dreamers are those children of immigrants who are undocumented but are only here because their parents came over here. It talks about their stories. It's about a 30-minute video, and it will be, and then that'll be followed by a discussion. It's an event that's open to the public. We encourage everyone to attend. It will be held on Saturday, August 31st at St. Mary's Catholic Church. So we would love to have members of council and the community come for this event. We think it's important, and I think it'll give a unique perspective.
Thank you very much, Vic. Appreciate it. Before we move on, we have a guest with us tonight. We have Mr. Zephaniah Taylor. Zeph, stand up. Okay, and we understand Mr. Taylor just retired after 33 years from Coors here in town, and we appreciate you coming to the meeting and celebrating that long term of employment over there. And we got a little something for you we're going to give you after the meeting's over, okay? Thank you very much for being here. Yeah. Okay, 33 years. Okay, consent agenda, council. Any items on the consent agenda? There's only one. So let me backtrack a second. Any comments on the one item on the consent agenda? If not, may I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Budget items, discuss the proposed 2013 and 14 budget for the city of Longview. Mr. David Willard.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to sit here, if that's okay, tonight, and any questions that you might have regarding the budget, we can hopefully answer from here, but we've got, of course, city staff here ready to answer your questions. So I don't have anything prepared as far as slides, but we'd certainly be open for any questions that you might have or otherwise.
Okay, council, questions? Questions of Mr. Willard? So that means everybody's been doing their homework and have been getting information, and everybody's in pretty...
That means everybody's in agreement so far.
Okay, all right. Yes,
I have a
ma'am?
question. There was a position that was listed for a producer in the, not the IT department, but basically in our Channel 5, and I'd like a little additional clarification on that.
Okay.
Because I know we contract out with MediaQuest We have 6 town hall meetings per year. We have the state of the city, no more than 8 to 10. So I'd like a little additional clarification as to why we need to hire that position, please.
Just as a little backdrop on that, since I've been the city manager, and then more especially in the last couple of years, we've really tried to focus on the idea that part of customer service is communication with the citizens. And we've been working really hard at a staff level to enhance and to continue the operation of communicating with our citizens. And part of that, obviously, nowadays is technology. Technology's changing all the time. Channel 5 and our website are 2 of the most important things we have right now in our way that we try to communicate with the public. And so Sean and Terry Miller primarily is responsible for our website, and he also is responsible for our Channel 5 productions. And as you all well know, Channel 5 is widely watched in this community.
Right.
And a very important way that we communicate out to the public. So Terry is in charge of all these productions for the Channel 5, and he's also in charge of the website. And the things that we have going on our website from all the departments, it is just a little bit overwhelming for one person to do. Terry's a one-man show, basically. And so in our effort to broaden and to enhance the way we communicate, we felt like that Terry needed someone else in there to help him to split those duties between the website, being the webmaster, and also with Channel 5. And it's a good point you make, Ms. Williams, about contracting with MediaQuest for the town hall meetings. But even with that, Terry, and Sean also helps him as well, but Terry is responsible for setting all that up. Really, MediaQuest just comes in there that night to help out and to help operate. But Terry is really the producer behind that. So we felt like it was important if we're going to try to expand our communications. We've got the upcoming comprehensive plan that's going to require a lot of communication and website work to get that out, as well as Channel 5. So that was our thinking behind it.
Well, I was a little confused, and I can kind of understand a part of that, I guess because the position listed says producer. And so when I think in terms of producer, I'm strictly thinking from a Channel 5 type perspective. Is that going to offset some of the costs that we're looking at as far as what we spend with MediaQuest? And I'm interested to know how much we're spending, because they're at everything. I mean, I've seen them, and I've actually done business with them before, so I've seen them at all of our events. And so I'm wondering if we're going to hire a position, is this position going to be for Channel 5, or is this a subordinate type position, entry level, or is this somebody that's going to be a webmaster?
Well, this person would report to Terry Miller, and Terry would assign the duties, whether it be website or video, primarily to help out with I would think, the production aspect of Channel 5, but also to do, a lot of work in conjunction with the website as well. So I think it would report to Mr. Miller, and, duties is assigned to, and there are other ways we can, look to enhance our communications also.
And that was very interesting. You said report to Mr. Miller. So does that mean that Mr. Miller is going to move up the chain as far as like in position level, tenure? And so that would be more.
In our pay system, when people supervise other people,
It's a step.
it's a step up. So
And he would be supervising how many people?
one person.
But it's still a step up.
Yes.
Okay. And do we know does anybody know how much we're spending with MediaQuest? I don't know what that line item looks like versus what that position we're thinking of hiring looks like.
We'd have to get that for you. We can certainly do that.
Okay. I can get it later.
We'll have that. We can certainly get that for you.
Okay.
Okay. Hold, wait 1 second. Hang on 1 second. Richard?
Okay. 2 thoughts. One is, I know how much money I'm spending on my own business with, social media and website and finding ways to access markets, and I salute our city for spending money in that area. And as David said, we're going to be spending a lot of money trying to get out to our citizens about the comprehensive plan. So again, on the one hand, I can certainly see that. Having said that, I think if we can find ways to cut back on our third-party expenditures, that just only makes sense to me. And so I have a lot of confidence in you, Mr. Willard, and your staff, and I know that you've turned in a budget to us that's basically flat over prior year and doing a lot of things to help with your people's salaries and such. So, but at the same time, like I said, I think it's a good idea, but let's try to find ways to save money if we can.
And
Okay.
may I?
Just 1 second. Let me.
I just wanted to, I'd like to have a copy of what you sent, Cashier.
Well, it'll go to the whole council.
Yeah.
Okay. Cassia?
And I just wanted to kind of, say this while the opportunity is here. One of the things, I know that people have heard my concerns with what we're looking at doing as of right now, and I think we have an innate responsibility to ensure that we're absolutely spending the taxpayer dollars correctly. I'm not, and that was kind of like one example that was solidified for me, the fact that we can step up pay in supervising one employee. And I think that's something that, I hope everyone heard that, because that's kind of what I'm seeing, and it's not intended at all, Mr. Willard, to mean like, I don't agree with what you're doing, but just kind of being aware of what we're spending, what our revenue is as well, and we're doing this, and how are we justifying that? And that's why I really would like to get those numbers, how much we're spending to contract out, because MediaQuest is one of the best in our area. Joe Fuentes does a great job, and I know that they're there to assist us. So we're actually going to bring in another body and hire another position. I'm one of those people that ask why.
No, what I'd suggest we do is to, Mr. Willard has given a brief description of the job, of the job responsibilities that this person would have, but I think you need to maybe get that out to council, exactly what all that person is going to do.
Okay.
And then we can determine where and how that might impact what we're doing with MediaQuest as well, for further justification.
Okay, be happy
Okay.
to.
Anything else?
This is the old classic build or buy decision.
That's it.
I think it's a good thing to
Anything
consider.
else, Mr. Garrett?
Mr. Mayor, I was also looking at the justification for 3 new EMS personnel. What I would actually like to see is 2 EMS personnel and 1 EMD, emergency medical dispatcher. I'm not sure if we have that here or not, because we may be getting some calls that may be non-emergency. And I
But
would.
that's why we'd have, wouldn't that be a 911
Yeah,
call?
we have our communications 911 system and
Right.
our.
That's where the
all of our
calls, that's where the
public
calls
safety,
would go.
Okay.
All our fire and police
My
calls.
thinking was this: if we could maybe solve some of those non-emergency calls at the dispatcher, maybe we could save some money on sending an ambulance out for
Yeah.
some reason.
Well, that would typically be, Chief, that would typically be what 911 does. I mean, they get the information and they're not going to send, an ambulance.
Okay.
Or fire truck. Sometimes we send fire trucks too.
Because I know we've grown, our population has grown
Yeah.
probably 50% over the last 10 years.
Let's give Chief a chance here.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Smith, to answer your question, all of the people that work in public safety communications are emergency medical dispatcher trained.
Okay.
They're actually trained by the members of the fire department to give those pre-arrival instructions, CPR, choking victims, whatever the case may be. So it's, the route, what you're mentioning is kind of 2 different areas. The public safety works under Chief Dingler in the police department, and the ambulance works under the fire department.
Okay.
Okay. And the extra EMS is for the new.
To staff the ambulance. To staff a new ambulance, we actually need 6 people. We're very fortunate that we already have 3 of those people on duty in the fire department, causing us just to need 3 more firefighter paramedics to make that happen.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Chief,
Ms. Casher.
how much revenue, I know that we have a responsibility to ensure that we have enough people on staff, because that was one of my concerns as well. How much revenue, or do we make or generate any revenue from having that additional ambulance? Because I know we have those programs in place that you guys
The
do.
additional ambulance actually is not intended to generate revenue, it's to handle the volume problem that we're having with our service delivery now.
Okay.
On an average, I believe we bill out between $7 and $8 million a year for EMS fees, and we probably collect around $3 million. So our collection rate is right around 42% the last time we checked. And that's kind of in line with some of the national averages.
It's close to 50%. And what about the private services? Could you kind of clarify? Because I did
Okay.
have a couple of questions about exactly where, like, some of our private ambulance-type services fit into the
Right.
picture?
There are two private services, to our knowledge, that operate in the city. That would be Tiger EMS and Champion EMS.
Right.
Tiger EMS is a BLS service, which is basic life support. And basically, the way they operate is they transfer people from their home to the doctor's office, from the doctor's office to the hospital, back to home. And they only run non-emergency calls. And the same thing for Champion. Champion does transfers, inter-facility transfers from the nursing home to the hospital, but only for non-emergent patients.
Okay.
And the way the EMS was designed in 1987, that responsibility for the 911 emergency EMS is our sole responsibility.
Right. Do y'all tell who, like, which entity to go where? Do you all have any jurisdiction over that? You
We
know, 'cause I know
actually-
they help sometimes if y'all are backed up, they help
Right.
as
We
well.
actually regulate them, and we have the right to inspect their ambulances to be sure that they're up to our standards for the
Right.
city of Longview to operate. But as far as how they schedule their transports and things like that, that's all done on their end of it. Now, when we need backup, we typically will call for Champion rather than Tiger, because Champion has the same certification level that we do.
Okay.
Tiger is a lower level of service. And so we don't typically call them for backup because we want the citizens to be able to get as close to the same level of care all the time.
And how much do we, when you have to contract out or call someone for backup, how much are we generally spending? Like, do you know kind of a roundabout figure, how much we're spending to do that when we have to, you know, secure those additional services if you guys are backed up?
Well, it's of no cost to the city, but it's potential revenue that we lose out on in the city. You know,
Okay.
an average transport's going to be between $700 and $900 is what we'll bill out. And if those other ambulances are transporting those patients, then we've missed that opportunity to bill for that
Because they're
service.
going to bill for it.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Frost?
What percentage now in fire department calls is for ambulance services?
Roughly 85%. It's
85%.
the biggest portion of what we do.
Yeah. I think that tells
Is
you.
that non-emergency?
Well, we don't consider non-emergency. Everything that we do in the fire department, we consider that an emergency service, okay? It's all a priority to us. Now, there's different levels of priority. Anything from a priority 1 to a priority 3. A priority 1 is the bad stuff. Priority 3 is, you know, that's when you'll see it's just driving normal to get to the call. It may not be as critical of an event.
Anything else? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was just saying that was a really good question.
Okay.
85% is a lot higher than I thought.
Big number.
That's what drives us.
Any other discussion on this item A? If not, we'll move to item B, resolution supporting the simplified recycling proposal. Mr. Willard.
Mayor and council, tonight we have a resolution we'd like for council to consider in moving forward or not with the simplified recycling proposal. A couple of years ago at least, we began looking at different things about recycling and efficiencies in the way we handle solid waste and our recycling. Mr. Archer, Dwayne Archer, and his people have done a wonderful job putting a proposal together for you that has been disseminated in the public a lot of different times. We've had a lot of avenues where people could comment about that, and so we would like to bring that before you tonight. This resolution would allow the staff to go forward with the implementation of this program, and if you allow us to go forward tonight, then it will take us, you know, probably a year to 16 months to get it fully implemented over this coming budget year and perhaps the next. But by this time next year, should you go forward, we'll be well on our way to getting this implemented. And anyway, if you have any questions about that, Mr. Archer's here, and Mr. Bonds, if we can answer any of those
Okay.
questions.
Questions, council? No questions? Okay, if not, may I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Have a motion, second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes. Public hearing on the proposed tax rate. Who's going to take that one?
Ms.
Oh,
Cullen.
Ms. Cohen. Hello
Good
there.
evening.
Why didn't you put your name on there?
It is, I thought it was.
No.
That wasn't on purpose.
Okay. Oh, excuse me, it is. They just had it in the, they didn't
was
highlight it,
hidden.
but that's okay. Thank you, Angela. Go ahead.
The Texas state statute requires that a municipality hold 2 public hearings on the property tax rate. The proposed tax rate is 12.09 cents for debt service, 38 cents for operations and maintenance, totaling 50.09 cents per $100 of evaluation. This is the first of the required hearings. The vote will be held Thursday, September 12th, 2013, at 5:30 in City Hall council chambers at 300 West Cotton.
Okay, questions? If not, this item requires a public hearing. Public hearing is now open. I do not have any speaker cards on this matter. Is anyone here would like to speak to this item? There not being so, public hearing is closed. We don't have to take any action on this at this time. Okay. Action items: A, consider a resolution approving and authorizing the city manager or city manager designee to renew a contract for animal shelter services. Kevin Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor, council
Looking
members.
awful spry tonight.
Well, thank you. I try to look that way all the time, but
Oh,
something magical about tonight, I
there you
guess.
go.
Mayor, council members, Mr. Willard, the resolution before you is an agreement with the Humane Society of Northeast Texas for animal shelter services in the amount of $253,906.08. This is the same contract that we've had for a number of years with the Humane Society, although the price has changed. It is for the services that the city of Longview uses for both the city animal control officers taking animals to the shelter as well as the citizens. The amount that is shown here averages out to about $53 per animal. We have to do a little bit of estimation on the number of animals that we will take next year. That price is on the low side of the price that most entities in the greater North Texas area charge or have to expend for sheltering animals. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I would like to point out that the new shelter director is here, Scott Holloway, he's behind me, as well as many members of the board of the Humane Society.
Okay, questions? And let's clarify the per animal charge.
Yes, sir.
Okay, why don't you do that?
Well, quite frankly, we have to estimate how many animals are going to go into the shelter from the city of Longview in the next year. This current year, we're in line to do about 4,700, 4,750, something like that, going into the shelter. You take that number, I think it's 4,770 actually. You take that number and divide it into the cost that's shown here, the $253,906, and you wind up with about $53 per animal if you spread it out. Obviously, you're going to have animals that are injured or sick. You're going to spend more money on those. You're going to have some animals that come directly into the shelter. In a matter of minutes, the owner shows up and reclaims them. Obviously, you don't spend as much money on those particular animals. One thing that is different for the Humane Society at this point is that they are immediately vaccinating animals when they come in the door. That is a huge improvement. That is a great thing. You will see that there will be fewer cases of illness from the animals being associated with one another while they're at the shelter because of that. It's a very good thing that they have started. As well, they started some other practices on just where they hold the animals, especially the cats, trying to cut down on the number of upper respiratory infections that they're having. It is improving. I did want to point that out because, again, the contract is the same. The money amount has changed, but we are seeing improvements of the service that's being offered.
Okay, and I just want to clarify that when the negotiation or the notice about the increase was brought to my attention,
Yes, sir.
council's attention, the number was different than this number we're talking about, is actually more.
Yes, sir.
And the calculation you just did came out somewhere in the neighborhood of around $64 to $65 per animal.
Yes, sir.
And that was reported in the News Journal. I understand some of the members of the Humane Society were a little upset with that.
Right.
But that's exactly where the information came from.
Yes, sir.
So I'm glad that I just want to make sure we clarified that. Didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but that's where the information came from. Okay, any other questions? Go ahead.
On the water, sewer, and sanitation, what does that amount to?
A few years ago, we realized that the city of Longview, we're in a unique situation. The shelter is actually located here in the city of Longview. We provide them with water, sewer, as well as some assistance in removing certain trash items. The thought was at the time that we needed to get credit, if you will. This price tag that you're looking at does reflect that there is a value that the city of Longview provides for the Humane Society for those services. Does that make sense?
I think so. Any other questions? If not, may I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Item B, a resolution awarding a contract and authorizing city manager's designee to execute any necessary documents with Connolly Architects and Consultants of Austin, Texas, in the amount of $75,800 for the building, programming, and schematic design of a new animal shelter. Brent Brevard.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Architecture Selection Committee for the animal shelter received 12 responses to the request for qualifications. From those, we selected 4 firms to interview from across the nation. And Larry Connolly, Architects and Consultants of Austin, was chosen. Larry has 23 years specializing in animal shelters, and he's worked on 80 animal shelters across the nation. Mr. Larry Connolly is here to with a brief presentation and to answer questions if you have any.
Okay, let me, I just want to clarify the selection committee. Besides yourself and members of staff, it also included several members of our animal task force that made the recommendation, that we're reviewing tonight. I see Alicia Nolte's here as one of those members. Anybody else, Alicia, here from that committee? Okay, but so it was not only city staff, but also members of that task force. Did we have something from Mr. Connolly at this time, or did you, was he here to
He has a
speak?
presentation.
Okay, good.
Give it a try.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi there.
I'm Larry Connolly. First off, I start with a questionnaire to assess what sort of needs your regional facility has. And this slide is literally what the questionnaire looks like. I'm sorry you can't read it, but I will tell you what it says. It basically tries to analyze the intake that you have, any special needs you may have with the new facility. The benefits for a new facility, by the way, I did see your existing facility during the interview process, but I can tell you that adoption centers today are not what they used to be 20 or 30 years ago. They are quieter, they're not as noisy, the adoption habitats are bright, they're energy efficient, they're easy to operate, easy to maintain, easier to clean, economical, and all of that means that you will have a healthier animal. And the importance of that is that if you have an animal that's less stressed, they're healthier, and the healthier animal is easier to adopt. So the result is, as I said, it's easier to, adoptions will increase. It's a safe place to visit, unlike now, as most facilities, if you see a dog and you say hello to it and greet it and touch it, and you didn't see another dog, then you're transferring disease. And the presentation in these facilities, most of the time, as you see with the cat above, the animals are presented behind glass. That is a much healthier way of presenting the animals. So there's safety involved as well. It's also more efficient. It allows you to have extended business hours without increasing staff. And it's a sustainable design, and it's a good place to work. Above is a schedule that we have. Right now, we're in the middle of August, and beginning with a building program, which we met earlier today to discuss. And fast forward 3 months, it ends with the city council meeting with a presentation, and there will be consensus because we will not have only have met with the city staff and stakeholders, but we will have had public forums to take input on what the issues are concerning this regional facility. And with that, I'm open to questions.
Questions? Mr. Garrett?
Mr. Connolly,
Yes, sir.
after the final design is complete, do you coordinate that with the Texas Health and Safety, it's Texas State Department of Health Services?
Yes, sir.
After the final design has been drawn, so they can approve that faculty at the
That's correct.
quarantine?
Yes, sir.
How long does that process take?
It's Usually what happens is that we have sort of, they have previews of it, so when they finally see it, it is not a surprise. It is more of a formality.
So they have to approve it before construction can begin?
We need their blessing ideally, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Conley.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Cash?
Yes, ma'am.
I love that sustainability phrase you had up there. Could you elaborate a little bit about what really a sustainable building is? Because that's something I think that as a community, we somewhat struggle with. And just, kind of tell us some of the
Well,
features of having a sustainable
in-
building.
In today's jargon, it's more has to do with resources and the more responsible use of resources, and we've just gotten a lot smarter about how we do that. For example, one of the strategies we may end up employing is providing fresh air to the cats as well as the dogs in their display and in their housing. Now, the functional reality is that may only be during the business hours because we'll probably enclose the facility, at the end of business hours. But the fact that we will have fresh air means that you won't have to be operating the HVAC system during those
Right.
hours, and there are also health benefits to that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions? Mr.
What's the estimated cost of this facility?
The budget we're working with is the hard cost, meaning the construction cost alone is $4.4 million.
Any feel for what the operational cost would be based on your experience?
Not off the top of my head. No, I'm not an operational guy, but we can get those numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Sims?
Yes, sir.
Did I understand you to say you'll be through and ready to present us your architectural drawings by November?
Yes, sir. Preliminary conceptual drawings.
Okay.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Mr. Frost?
Do you incorporate any things like solar energy or anything like that?
We can, but in terms of, it depends. Yeah, solar energy isn't really as efficient as we'd like it to be unless it's a gesture that, you insist upon. It's not something we routinely explore.
Other questions? Thank you, Ms. Conlon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Okay, may I have a motion, council?
I'd like to ask a question.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe just say something before or unless you want to make the motion, then we can have the discussion.
No, I mean,
Okay.
I'll withdraw the motion too.
I think I've been pretty upfront about the fact that I have some concerns about the process we've gone through here. And I won't, Mr. Connolly, please have a seat. This has nothing to do with you, sir. So everybody at the council is going to roll their eyes because Mr. Manley's talking about the animal shelter again. So it seems to me that we're putting the cart in front of the horse, that we're voting to spend $76,000 of the taxpayers' money, and we haven't actually voted to actually do an animal shelter. And so, we vote to do this, and we could say, okay, we're only going to spend only $76,000 to do that, and then we'll have to vote on it when he comes back with his proposal, which we know is going to be somewhere around $4 million. And it seems to be just a foregone conclusion that we're going to do this. And I didn't think that we were at that point yet.
Ms. Manley, we presented a resolution to council for council to vote to move the process forward
Right, I
in
remember that.
building a new shelter, and that's what council voted and agreed to do, and I think you voted for it as well. And,
Yes,
well,
I did.
Let me
To
complete
move
my
it-
statement. Listen,
Of course,
that's all
yes.
we're doing.
I beg your pardon.
mean, that's all we're doing, okay? I mean, when.
No, we're not. We're spending $76,000.
Well, that's the only way you can move the process forward is to get the design done. You also mentioned you wanted to look at the operational costs. You can't really, cart before the horse. You can't really put an operational cost on it till you know exactly how the facility is designed. So we're moving the process forward, and we're going to have to spend this money in order to assist us in moving that process forward. And at the end of the day, in November, I think it'll end up being an up and down vote as far as, okay, this is what we want to do or we don't want to do. And everybody will have their opportunity at that time. So.
I agree with that. When you talk about moving the process forward, the process to me was that we did what we did. We find out what it's going to cost. We have these 4 firms, and now we've settled on one that the staff thinks is the best choice. To me, that's part of the process to now stop and decide, okay, do we really want to spend $76,000?
I think that's what we're
To
getting
do-
ready to vote on.
Do we really want to spend $76,000 of the taxpayers' money, or do we want to stop and say there's other alternatives? And let me remind everyone up here that this whole process started 2 years ago as a public-private partnership. And don't look now, but the way I see it, it's all our money and the county's money. I don't see any private money in this deal.
And I'll answer that you're not going to see any private money in this deal until the private sector sees that we're serious about what we're talking about doing. I've already been contacted, and I've agreed not to disclose names at this point, but I will be disclosing names of people that are willing to step up. But they've been caught up in this. I mean, I think the Humane Society will tell you, what's happened to their, monies that they would used to collect because of all the negativity surrounding this whole process. And I think you'll see a number of people step up once they know that this is, a serious, that the city and when partnering with the county is serious about, doing this. And personally, I think it's the right thing to do.
Well, I know
But
you do.
we're here today to vote, and it's everybody's vote to spend the money to move it forward or not to. So is there anybody else have anything?
I have a few more things to say. I
Oh,
wasn't
go
done.
ahead, go
Thank
ahead,
you.
go ahead.
So with regard to the couple things you just said, I think that it'd be very appropriate to find out who these private people are who are willing to put whatever amount of money it is up now before we go to the
Well, you're
expense.
one of them.
As a matter of fact, I just might. But and the second thing I wanted to say, because I love my animals too, Jay, as you well know, with regard to the animal shelter, the fact that all the negative things said about the animal shelter, I think the city could have done a lot more to support the animal shelter along the way through this whole process. The things I hear from the folks at the animal shelter is the city never calls unless they want something. I think we could have had a lot more open dialogue with the folks at the Humane Society before we got to this point, and now faced with the decisions that are in front of us right now. Again, it's all part of the process. Obviously, I'm going to vote against this. I would just encourage other members of the council to stop and think, do we really want to do this? And if there are not other alternatives, as I've said all along.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, in my opinion, I got an opportunity to visit that shelter probably about 2 weeks ago. And long as we just outgrown that shelter. I mean, after 30 years, we've outgrown it. The animals sit in the floor. We just don't have a place to put them. I would say I'm in favor of the new shelter because we need one for the next 30 years. And either do it now or we wait later. It's going to cost more if we continue to push this back on the shelf. But in my opinion, we need to go ahead and get this shelter going right now for the next 30 years and be out of one-time payment instead of waiting 5 years from now and coming back and try to buy it again, which is going to cost even more, probably $6 million.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Sims?
This has been ongoing now for as long as I've been on the council, which is over 7 years. I think we drug our feet, and I commend you for going ahead and getting this thing over and done with during my lifetime, and I'm pretty old.
Here we go again.
I have lived in, oh God, there's no telling how many different cities. Longview is the only city I've ever lived in that the city didn't maintain their animal shelter. None of them were private. They were operated and taken care of by the city. And we'll have control now, and it will be run properly. And there again, I commend you, and I am all for this.
One of the things that's happened through this lengthy process is, we heard tonight from Mr. Cummings and some of the things that the Humane Society is doing today, okay? And then they've got a new director, and so some things have definitely improved. And I think they've improved because this issue has been brought to the public. And we never intended for it to be a negative toward the Humane Society. They have certain things to work with, but it was to, hey, can we do better? And should we do better? And that's where we are. And each council member has their vote to do or not to do. just because we may not agree, that's our prerogative. That's the democratic process. But the process moves forward. And at the end of the day, the council will vote to build it or not build it, but we'll have gone through the due diligence process, to get to that point. And I personally, as mayor, am going to make sure in what I have to do with this issue is to make sure that happens. And we still have a ways to go, and to make sure, because I think it's very important that it's a very transparent. I think it has been a very transparent process with the community, and that the community understands what we're doing, and they'll have plenty input to this. So, yes, sir.
Now, will Mr. Conley's firm bring back a estimate of the cost, and then is he going to build it, or then we'll have to put it out for a bid for contract?
We need to go back to that timeline. I think that kind of. Go ahead, Mr. Brevard.
Mr. Conley is the architect, and if the council votes to move forward with this, then we would put the project out for bids to general contractors who would actually do the construction. And then Mr. Conley will help us with the contract administration, making sure that the contractor builds it correctly.
Okay, so he'll be involved all the way through the process?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we went in visiting with the shelter in Chattanooga, in talking with Michael Arms from San Diego, in how those particular shelters were done. They gave us a lot of insight as to things to do, not to do, to look at, and we'll hopefully be encouraged with Mr. Conley to make sure that, we don't want to stub our toe on this, okay? But that's kind of the timeline. And then it would go for bid from there.
Jay,
Yes, sir, Mr. Simpson.
will Mr. Conley or one of his associates be here during the construction overseeing it?
Yes, sir, you certainly will, and I will also.
Oh, okay. Oh, double trouble.
Okay.
I have a question.
Cash.
Brent. So potentially, after we bid the project, we could come in under bid
Sometimes it happens.
a lot of the time. I got to ask this question, Mayor. I know we're not going into operational, but realistically, is there an approximate of how many people we're going to have to staff that facility with? Just an approximate.
We've had some of those conversations and looked at different strategies, and I think Mr. Cummings has those numbers, although he might not have them in his head.
Hang just one second. One of the things, the task force made recommendations
Right.
about having a nonprofit board, basically hire a director and manage. There's been discussions about, other potential groups possibly be involved, all the way to the city actually running it.
Right.
Okay, and I personally think, again, going through the process, is let's look at this design and everything, and continuing to work to what, with staff and with, the task force and other people, what's going to be our truly best way, to manage this, especially from an operational cost. I'll again say that once, we do build this or commit to building this, I think some of the other communities are very interested, in this program as well, okay? So I don't know that, I personally don't know how you get to exactly what that dollar is until we continue to see exactly what the building is going to look like, what it's going to take to operate it, water, electricity, well, of course, he's going to give us water, right? But just all the different things, the task force did make recommendations regarding spade and neuter and, veterinarians, and, so that's just stuff we're going to have to get to and figure out how to do that.
And the only reason I was asking that question is because I've been very concerned while we're in budget time right now. As we proceed, probability says we will have to incur some or hire some additional employees. And so I just encourage council to be cognizant of that as we move forward with right now. I'm not talking about that, because I do believe we need to go through the entire process for the animal shelter. But that's why I continue to ask those questions, the hard questions about staffing right now, so.
Okay,
She's looking at me crazy.
all right. Ricardo?
At the risk of beating a dead horse, in the context of, it's better to have the city run it than to have private enterprise. One of our city staff told me at one point a couple of years ago, and I won't say who it is, but when this whole animal shelter really started to get going in earnest, that people would routinely come up to them at the TML meetings and say, how did you people avoid being in the animal control business? Because it's a black hole. It's a target for lawsuits. It's additional cost to run. You're always having to do something to upgrade the facility. It's not like you build it once and don't ever come back and do something to it. So, the fact that, I being a small government guy, I bemoan the fact that we're moving from outsourcing this to taking on the responsibility of both building it and what I think will eventually be responsibility for operating it. And it just scares the heck out of me.
Okay. Hey, we, tonight, we voted on and approved a resolution to change our trash collection. I've had the same TML people ask me, hey, how for so long are y'all still collecting trash? Why aren't you using private enterprise?
Yeah.
So
I'd vote for that one, too.
it's everybody's call. Okay. I think we've discussed this, so I need a motion. Okay. Hang on a second, let me get my computer back on. Action item to consider the resolution. May I have a motion?
I'll move not to approve.
Okay.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, I have a motion. Okay, so I have a motion not to approve. Do I get a second? Okay, there not being any, I have a motion to approve.
Second.
And there's a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, motion passes. Items of community interest.
Well, I don't have any interest tonight, but if Mr. Willard's going to give us water, I want Mr. Archer to give us some sanitation.
Okay, all right, okay. Gary?
There's a child identification session will be held September the 10th at the library from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Please do not leave your kids or animals in the car. It's 100 degrees out there. Keep that in mind. Watch out next week. I think school starts next week. So watch out for the school zone. Slow down. Don't talk on cell phones or you will get a ticket.
Don't text and drive.
Don't text and drive. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Williams?
August 28th will mark the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave the famous I Have a Dream speech. This is a great time for all of us to just take a step back and reflect and honor those who truly fought for equality and justice for all. And I have to say this because this is who I am. They weren't just people who look like me. They were diverse cultures, everybody. And it's a great time to really kind of recommit ourselves to truly understanding one another and learning how to love one another. Thank you.
Good deal. Thanks, Cassia. Okay. Yes, sir.
The organizational meeting, if you will, of our long-term comprehensive plan meeting was today. And I just want to be the first one to say, you're going to be hearing a lot about this in the future. We encourage our newspaper to be part of that. There's going to be an opportunity for every one of you and all of our citizens to interact with the city and have input directly into the people that are going to be formulating our comprehensive plan for the next 20 years. So when you come to these meetings, and there's going to be lots of them, don't tell us about the potholes, all right? We've got a way to deal with that. Tell us what you want your city to look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. Think strategically. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a long-term program for the next 12 to 18 months. And I'm excited to be part of it.
Okay, thanks. All right, City of Longview offices, library, and Longview Transit will be closed for Labor Day on Monday, September 2nd. The library will be closed Saturday, August 31st through Monday, September 2nd. However, trash will be collected as normal on Monday. Applications are now being accepted for booths and vendors during the Multicultural Festival, which will be held Saturday, October 19th. For more information, contact Partners in Prevention, 903-237-1019. As a reminder, the city of Longview, Gregg County, and Harrison County are all under a burn ban. Each fire station is currently displaying a red flag to indicate the burn ban. Those flags will continue to fly until the burn ban is ended. Please do not burn during this time and avoid any activities that may start. For more information, contact the Longview Fire Department, 903-237-1210. Also, tomorrow, Pine Tree School District will have a ribbon cutting for the new Pirate Stadium dedication. That's at 9:30 tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow evening at 8 p.m., they'll have the Meet the Pirates, Meet the Pirates, so that the public has an opportunity to view the new stadium. So that's all we have. Thank y'all.